S.A.F.E stands for Seniors Against Financial Exploitation. This was created to help seniors and their loved ones help protect themselves against scams, fraudulent people, con artists. TV series, well, hopefully you can all learn something on how to protect yourselves against this. Hello, I'm Peter Janowsky, and welcome to another episode of Project S.A.F E, Seniors Against Financial Exploitation. I'm with Ryan and Janowsky Financial Strategies Group, and this is a series of shows that will deal with how seniors, their families, their caregivers can all protect against financial exploitation. My guest today, who's been here before, is my friend Marcus O'Toole from Cona Elder Law, who's not only been on this show, but also a show we have called Financial Strategies for Seniors. Today we're going to focus in on a little bit more on how to protect against scams and fraud and financial exploitation. Marcus, nice to see you again.
Peter, thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure. I always like to, educate the community from a lawyer's perspective about what they can do to protect themselves, in addition to, what they can do for planning purposes. So
this episode, I believe, is going to meld planning, which John and I, and John was always very big on planning. You could have a saying in other shows, everybody has a choice. You could choose to do nothing, or you could choose to do proper planning. And I think I was saying this is going to meld into not just how to plan, but also how to protect. And I'm sure you have plenty of stories from your firm and personal stories where people have unfortunately been taken advantage of. It could be from strangers, it could be from people they know. Unfortunately, there's just too many stories to go over. But first, let's give the audience a little bit of a background of what you do at Cona and what Cona does and where you're located.
Okay, so our office is in Melville, right on 110 on Broad Hollow Avenue. We're a firm of about 10, 11, 12 attorneys. We focus just on elder law, so we don't do divorces and criminal work or anything like that. Our focus is on helping families and especially seniors protect their assets, plan for their future, and really secure everything they've worked for. So that can be anything from regular estate planning, making sure you have a power of attorney and a healthcare proxy to help make decisions for you, which is going to be an important part of today's discussion is decision makers, and your will. Okay, I want to leave my assets to my kids, my spouse, whomever, as well as protecting yourself. What if I got sick and needed care in the future? I needed a nursing home. I needed a home care aid. Am I going to lose my house? What can I do to protect myself? And we help people put together a plan to protect their assets and secure the benefits they'd be entitled to so they get the care they need and they're not scrambling around. Am I going to lose my house? Is there going to be a lien on it or anything like that? And part of that process is education. A lot of people don't really know what can I do to protect myself from a financial perspective and from scams and things like that. So I think educational programs like this is a big part of it, because a lot of times someone will come into my office and for an initial meeting, for a consultation, and a lot of what we're doing is educating them, and then they understand even more the need to have a plan in place.
That makes perfect sense. It's about gathering information. I get that, and it's like going to see any professional, whether it's a doctor, an accountant. That first step is finding out what you don't know, or even worse, what you think you know.
Right.
Which we both have.
Oh, I read it on the internet, so that must be true. Which is among lawyering on the internet. I can tell you, and I can give you 1,000 examples. Lawyering on the internet is one of the worst things you can do, because especially in modern times, the law is very specialized. Right? Just like doctors are very specialized. You wouldn't go to a podiatrist for open heart surgery. You wouldn't go to a heart surgeon to have surgery on your foot, right? So if Googling things on the internet can really get you into trouble. You want to go to a lawyer who focuses on that particular area. Like if someone comes to me and says, okay, I want to divorce my spouse, say, great. Let's do new wills for you, and then go to this person to, a different lawyer to deal with the divorce situation.
Yeah, I think that works for many professions, because I will relate a little bit of a story where John and I kind of knew someone personally who unfortunately was in the hospital but recovered wonderfully. But while they were in the hospital, they were asking, when they first went, they asking, what medicine, what do you take, what medicines you on, what medical history. and this person was talking about a doctor told them to do something, and they were a little befuddled, and they said, you know, well, which doctor was this? And she said, well, the doctor on the radio. So it's a true story, but you know, it was sweet. It was humorous, but unfortunately, that can lead to disastrous things when you're getting, you know, information that's very generic, and especially in my industry, you see it all the time. You know, stock newsletters, and I won't mention names, but there are people who make fortunes over giving advice to broad audiences.
Go buy this stock. You know, my 2 million watchers on TV.
You know, and a lot of it's right though. A lot of it's right. All right. So there was a famous person who is really against annuities. She is a financial advisor, and she wrote books and all sorts of things, and she constantly says that annuities are the worst thing to do. But I think that's a very broad stroke, and I would never, ever, in a general audience, say what's good or bad. Everybody's a unique individual, just as, you know, every family you work with is a unique situation. I don't want to get too far off track, but going back to what you were saying with power of attorney, all right, and that kind of coincides in my business now, where my regulatory authorities, the SEC and FINRA, are very big advocates for the last few years of having our business and my constituents get trusted contacts. It's almost like a power of attorney, because usually when I come across a situation in a family where someone becomes a power of attorney, they're also the trusted contact. And sometimes it can be a trusted contact without having power of attorney. Yeah, maybe we could go into that a little bit, and how a power of attorney can protect any individual from being scammed or exploited.
All right, so a power of attorney is a legal document that names an agent to be able to handle financial affairs on your behalf. This is a document that everyone should have, whether they're 25 or 85, right? Because you never know what's going to happen. Might get in an accident, might get sick, might need someone to step in and take care of finances. And for seniors in particular, you know, maybe at some point you need help paying the bills, making sure your finances are managed, making sure, you know, someone's not taking advantage of you. You want to have someone you trust. And by putting together a power of attorney, you get to pick that person. Right? You're not leaving it up to, oh, my family goes to court and a guardianship and they pick someone. I want my spouse, my child, my best friend, whoever it is that you trust implicitly, that it has your best interest at heart and is capable of doing this for you, giving them that legal authority so that they could go to a bank, go to the IRS, go deal with whatever it is financial that you need taken care of, they can help you with. So having that in place is really important. And whether you have a power of attorney or not, a trusted contact is really nice in the financial industries, because if they can't get a hold of you, if something happens, you know, they don't know who to call. What if there's something that needs to be done on the account? What if there's they thought there might be some fraud, there's some suspicious transactions and things like that. Having a trusted contact to alert them to that if they can't get a hold of you is, I think, a really important thing to set up.
Power of attorney. Are we talking about just a simple power of attorney or durable power of attorney?
So most powers of attorney that a lawyer would prepare for someone are going to be durable. And durable means that it's effective now and it continues if you became incapacitated. Because that's when people are going to use it, right? Because as long as you can, you handle your own finances. You want a power of attorney that continues on, and it's general, meaning it's for everything. Because you can have a power of attorney just for one bank account or just to go deal with a specific transaction. But if you're coming to a lawyer to do an estate plan, you say, okay, if I couldn't make financial decisions, who would I want to be able to handle all of them for me? I want this person, or maybe you have two agents, maybe you have a backup and things like that.
So unfortunately, there has been occurrences where the wrong person is chosen to be power of attorney. Personally, I don't think there's any way of protecting against that, unless there's something I don't know.
I think you have to, well, there's a couple of things. One, you should be very careful about who you select, because the person that's your agent could do anything that you can do. I'll give an example that where an older woman, she was living alone, she had no family who was close, and she said, oh, the doorman, he's very nice. He says hello to me every day, he has my packages. I'm sure he'd make a fine agent. Named him as power of attorney. What did he do? Went into the bank, emptied her accounts, and, you know, fled the state, right? So this person could go do that without telling you ahead of time. So it's important that it's someone you trust implicitly. Now, there is something that's not often used in a power of attorney, something called a monitor, where you can appoint someone to monitor the agent. It's very rare that someone does this because you're like, all right, well, I'm going to appoint my trusted person. But you can appoint a monitor, but they really only act after the fact. You know, they can't prevent the agent from doing something, but they can require the agent to give them financial information so they can kind of check up on them.
Right, so in other words, a monitor could be a person who's getting duplicate statements, duplicate confirms, access to going online and watching activity.
Right, so it can be helpful if you don't have anybody else to have a trusted advisor or friend be the monitor. The monitor doesn't have authority to make the decisions, but can keep an eye on the person that does, you know, just as kind of an extra layer of protection. You could also, if you had two people, you could have co-agents. Say you had two children, you could appoint them both as agents so they can kind of watch over each other. Administratively makes things, you know, a few extra steps involved and isn't ideal all the time. But if you're concerned about making sure that everybody is, you know, on the level and doing the right thing, you could either have co-agents or you can add a monitor.
What is, when someone's planning, and even in any capacity, you know, I know there's no end to how much planning you can do, and everybody's situation is different. Some people maybe only have one or two close people in their lives. Other people have, you know, 10 grandchildren, and it gets intricate. What is the most paramount thing somebody could do as far as protecting themselves against scams and fraud? In other words, with the power of attorney, just to make sure that they're not signing over their house to anyone.
Right.
You know, I'm trying to, you know,
I think it's really important as people get older. Sometimes it can be more difficult to pick up on scams and people trying to take advantage of you. So I think it can be important to start to bring in if you have people that you trust, bring them into your planning, right? Bring them in to have knowledge, where your assets are, you know, what kind of accounts you have. I mean, our clients, we hand out, we call it a legacy logbook, where you can put together a list of where your accounts are, what your passwords are, so that people know where things are and they can help check up on things, right? Maybe say, okay, I want to put my child on my bank account so they can get online access, so they can, you know, just keep an eye on things, because, you know, it's becoming more difficult for me to, you know, pick up on maybe there was some suspicious transactions or something like that. And just so, you know, if you have people involved, they could keep an eye out for red flags, right? Or even your financial advisor. You develop a relationship with a financial advisor or your bank or something like that. Don't be just someone who, you know, open an account, you don't talk to them for 5 years. Right. You develop that relationship because they can keep an eye out, right? Say, oh, that's unusual. They usually call me back when I call them. There's these unusual transactions. You know, what's going on? Let me call the trusted contact or the agent or something like that, because I think some outside party might be influencing them.
So in my business, people, even in many businesses, people usually, or it's not, I should say not usually, it's not uncommon to get second opinions. So I might show a proposal to someone and they may get a proposal from someone else, and they'll be interviewing people. Does that occur in your business? Where someone is doing the planning, and have you ever come across an attorney who may be a little unscrupulous, and is there anything people should look out for when they're going to meet an attorney or a firm and saying, all right, look, I think they're selling me something I don't need? I mean, because I know that trusts are a very big thing, and there's been, for decades now, there's been a big move when people get older to southern states, warmer weather. And I've heard stories right away where people get there, as soon as they get there, there's an attorney calling them up and saying, you need a trust, you need a trust. And it's usually a revocable trust. Right. And I understand it may make sense, but not all the time. Is that really the case?
All right, so I think that when you go to an attorney, you want to make sure that this is something, first off, that they focus on, this particular area. We talked a few minutes ago about making sure the person does this, not that, oh, you know, I took a class on this and now I'm going to do trusts, you know, on the side. On someone that really focuses on that and gives you your different options, right? Because a trust is a very common tool to accomplish a number of things. For instance, a revocable trust is really for avoiding probate, smoothing out the administration of your estate. It is applicable sometimes, but not for everybody. And I do know that a lot of people, because lawyers are, some of them are looking to make a buck. Family move down to Florida and they see advertisements. You must have a trust. You must have a trust. Probate is horrible. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Seniors should be more focused on asset protection. I think in most cases for seniors, it's going to be the irrevocable trust, because you're looking to, if I need that long-term care, if I needed a nursing home, if I needed a home care aid, and I don't have a long-term care insurance policy, I want to protect my house. And your plain vanilla revocable trust that, you went to an attorney dinner and they said, okay, for X dollars, I'll give you a trust, and you never meet them again. Well, that's really not appropriate. You want it particularized to your situation. When I meet with someone, I send them a questionnaire. We go over their particular assets, their particular family situation. I say, okay, you do need a trust, you don't need a trust. Here's what I suggest, and make sure you really understand why you do something. Not just said, oh, the lawyer needs a trust. It's like, oh, the lawyer said I need an irrevocable trust because I want to protect my house. I don't have long-term care insurance. I'm 80. I want to make sure that I leave it to my kids and that I don't have to sell my house to pay for my care.
Right. I thank you, because I've been battling that many times where people come back and say, this person said you trust, and they just go with it. There's no questioning at all. And I think because it's coming from maybe an authority figure or wherever it's coming from, they don't question it, which for whatever reason, I think a lot of things should be questioned. I think there should be a certain sense of scrutiny in everything people do.
My job is to try to explain to people so they understand why they need something. I try not to say, oh, you have to do it just because I told you. Right? And I give them their options. If you don't, this is what happens. If you do, here are these benefits, and this is what it costs, and here's your options. Here's what you would decide.
Right.
And so I think that really helps people is, again, education, making sure they understand what they're doing, not just, oh, the lawyer said I have to have a trust, and I'm just going to do it.
With the education part of it, I want to talk about scams a little bit. And in the series of episodes that I'm doing, we're going to go over all the different scams that are out there. Most people are aware of them, but I think you mentioned something to me that I wasn't aware of, that are house scams.
Right.
Maybe you could talk a little bit about that, because I'm not too fluent with that.
Yeah, so you call them house scams, you call them deed scams. There's been a couple of articles, and I remember one especially. It was one in the New York Times a couple of years ago about this like a scam ring or something like that in Brooklyn in particular, that was targeting certain neighborhoods where someone would approach a senior who lives in their home and say, okay, oh, we want to give you financial help or whatever it is. Here, sign these papers, right? And they get them to sign a document that turns out to be a deed, because it's not like, and it basically transfers the house to this person, right? Because a deed is one of the most difficult to grasp documents. You'd look at it. People come to me all the time, and because when they meet with them, I say, please bring a copy of your deed. And they said, I'm not sure which one of these is my deeds, and they'll just bring the stack from the closing. That's fine, because a deed, it's just a big block of text. Sometimes it says deed at the top, sometimes it says it, bargain and sale. What does bargain and sale mean? What does quitclaim mean? So it can be difficult to understand what you're signing, and it says, please consult a lawyer in like extremely tall, tiny type at the top of it. And you're signing this document that it could be just 2 pages that signs away your, $500,000 house. So those people are scamming people, trying to get them to sign this deed over them, promising them this, that, and the other thing, but then they don't deliver, and they try to evict the person, and they try to make it so hard and expensive for you to correct that you might just give up.
Wow. Has your firm experienced that?
No, but I have talked with other lawyers who have run into it, and it's been in the news a few times, and I've talked to judges and other people who have had to deal with it, and it's just something to be careful with. If someone's coming to you and they're not a lawyer, to say, oh, I'm going to get you these benefits, and they're having you something that you're signing and you don't understand what it is, don't sign it.
Right. Well,
right.
Yeah,
so it kind of leads into the lesson. Be careful of what you sign, especially if it's notarized. You want to make sure that you understand what you're signing. And look, as we get older, you don't need to understand everything. You don't need to be a lawyer yourself. It's one of the important things about bringing those trusted people into your life is they can help you with that, right? Whether that's a trusted advisor, that's someone you've known for years, right? Your financial advisor, right? You say, okay, they're asking me to sign something, and you're like, oh, that doesn't sound right. Here, go talk to this lawyer I know. He'll make sure, or she'll make sure that it's appropriate. You want to make sure you're running it by someone, a second opinion, to see if it passes the smell test. Because as you get older, it can be a little more difficult, to suss that kind of thing out. Especially, life is complicated these days.
Yeah. With the house scams, you mentioned me there's something about Nassau County having a program to register for something? Right.
So whenever you transfer a house or do a deed, you record it with the county clerk. And so it's public record. So anybody that owns a house, it's on public record, right? Who owns what house. Nassau County introduced a program, I think it was about a year or two ago, where you can pay them, I think it's $10, and they will, if anyone records a deed affecting your house, they will send you a notification. Because what if it's a fraudulent, what if it's one you never signed and someone was forging it and just transferred the house themselves and is trying to sell it, things like that.
Right.
So if someone tries to record a fraudulent deed, the county clerk is not analyzing signatures. Someone sends them a document, they record it. That's not their job to analyze that. But by subscribing to this program, they'll send you a notification. So you could reach out to the Nassau County Clerk's office and say, oh, there is a deed notification program. How can I sign up for it? Right?
So that's, and hopefully if an occurrence like that happens, it would stop everything. I'm assuming that that wouldn't be like it's a too late situation.
Well, no, it gives you a note. So it doesn't stop the recording. It gives you a notification that it's happening. Right? Because what if it was you doing something on purpose? They don't want it to stop. So this just notifies the homeowner, hey, a deed's been recorded, by the way, so that you at least know it's happening and you can do something about it, contact a lawyer to try to stop what's going on before it gets any further.
That's what I mean. So,
rather than finding out, 5 years later that it happened, that this other guy claims he owns my house because there's a deed on file.
Right. So you're saying before some of these terrible, horrible scams where people are just signing away the houses. If they were in this program, they would get notified. And hopefully it would be able to stop it before they lose their home.
Yes.
Got it. And where would they contact in Nassau County?
The county clerk's office.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
So I don't have their phone number handy, but Nassau County Clerk, they can just Google the clerk's office. They have their phone numbers right on there.
And I'm assuming that obviously they could probably do that online.
Yeah. The county clerk's office, if you wanted to go in person, it's in Mineola on Old Country Road there.
Yeah.
But you can call them up, and I think you could subscribe to the program. You send in a letter. They probably have a form, and you give them $10. And
in fact, I think isn't that what they call the blue building?
Yes.
140 Old Country Road or something.
It's something like that.
Not that I've ever been there.
Right. Yeah, but it's right next to the courthouses and things like that.
Yeah. Excellent. That's a great piece of information that I can't see why anybody wouldn't do that for $10.
$10 is a good deal because you never know. Just to give you a heads up to any kind of shenanigans going on, it's a good idea to have that.
Yeah, $10 for insurance.
Right, and I believe most counties in the state have this program. I know in particular Nassau County. I looked it up before we came on, but even if you lived in Suffolk, I think they have a program that's similar.
Actually, you just mentioned something interesting. Different counties in the state. Obviously, you could work in every county in New York State.
Oh yeah.
Do you ever work in New Jersey, Connecticut? Does your firm go out there?
We do some work in New Jersey, but most of what we focus on is in New York. So it depends on what it is. We do have relationships with other attorneys if it's something beyond what we would normally do in New Jersey. But in New York, technically we could do anywhere with a lot of virtual things these days, but most of what we do is, Long Island, Nassau, Suffolk, Brooklyn, Queens, and areas like that.
Fantastic. Going back to scams, I don't want to miss anything because we have a little bit of time left. What are the most common scams you're finding the last few years that you may have dealt with clients directly if you haven't experienced?
So some of it is smaller, like those text messages or phone calls saying, "I'm from the IRS. You have to give us this money, or we're gonna, the FBI is gonna come for you." That you have to watch out for. First off, the IRS isn't going to just call you on the phone. They send you official notices if there's something wrong, and then the it's me scam, or hi grandma, it's me, I'm in jail. Somebody calling up pretending to be a grandchild, a niece, or a nephew, not saying their name and counting on you being embarrassed that you couldn't remember who they were, perhaps, right? That you don't ask, oh, who are you? It's like, oh, it's me, Grandma, and I'm in Ecuador, and I need $5,000 to post bail and go home, and you send them the money, and they're just taking the money, right? And they're calling from Iowa or wherever. So those are kind of, very kind of common things. The package delivery scams where they send a text message, oh, you have to pay us. It's usually them asking for money for something, right? If someone you don't know is saying, you must give me money, and it's a text message or a phone call and you don't recognize it, you should be suspicious, right? And then again, bring in your trusted contact, your child, your spouse, your best friend, to vet it. Is this real? Do I really need to do this? Do I really owe the IRS money? Call your accountant. I don't know, somebody called me on the phone saying I'm from the IRS, and they're really, no, the IRS wouldn't call you on the phone. But then there are bigger scams, right, for larger amounts of money, where people can try to take advantage of seniors because, look, seniors, they work, they built up a life savings, they have more money than the average, 21-year-old. So that's why they're a prime target for scammers, because they have, many of them have money. I think they would prefer to leave it to their children, so they've been saving these things up, or whoever family. So even something like, we had this case of the family came to us, their father, whose wife had passed away a number of years ago. He was older, I think he was in his 80s. He was lonely. He was online, talking with people. And a woman, or someone who claimed to be a woman, started a relationship with him. And he never met this person, never talked to them on the phone. It was just an online conversation. And eventually, this person started asking for money. Started small. Oh, I didn't get good tips this week. Can I have some money for groceries? My mom's in the hospital. Can I have a little money? And then it started escalating. Oh, I really could fix my apartment, or I want to take a trip to see you. And they send the money and says, oh, Mom was in the hospital. I couldn't. Sorry, I had to cancel. Right? Yeah. And they come up with excuses. And eventually this escalated into many, many thousands of dollars. I want to start a business. Can I have $50,000? Okay. Or what eventually set everything off was hundreds of thousands of dollars going toward the purchase of real estate in just this person's name.
Oh my gosh.
And the family eventually got word of it, because they weren't really involved in this person's finances. I don't remember how they got word of it. And they reached out to us, and we had to go to court to stop it, because their father had started to, really lose the ability to determine what's real and what's not. He was really in this relationship. They were going to get married. This was going to happen.
So sad.
And he had Alzheimer's, dementia. Things were starting to slip a little bit. So he had more difficulty. Really, if it was 30 years ago, he would have understood. Say, oh, they got me for the $1,000, but now I realize what's really going on.
And it's sad because I'm sure that for every story you have, there's hundreds out there, and it's
people don't,
It just continues.
A lot of seniors, it can be embarrassing.
It works, unfortunately. It works, and if these people are out there scamming and taking advantage, because it works. If we had measures in place to stop it, it would go away, but we don't. Unfortunately, that's just a sad part of life. It happens. We're running out of time. I want to thank you for coming here. It's always wonderful speaking with you. Before we run out, just do me a favor and give out your contact information, please.
Sure. So my name is Marcus O'Toole. Our firm is Cona Elder Law. Our telephone number, 631-390-5000, and 631-390-5000. We're in Melville. You want to give us a call, set up a meeting, talk to me, consultation, go over, what we can do to help you, protect yourself, get your plan in place. Be happy to do that.
Thanks so much for being here. Once again, thank you for joining us today. I'm Peter Janowsky with the Ryan and Janowsky Financial Strategies Group, and I'd like to close, as always, by saying, may the hand of a friend always be near with help and support. Thanks again.